but because they understand the importance of self-control. It's in the one who walks regularly, not to look a certain way, but to stay active and grateful for the ability to move. It's in the individual who rests when needed, because they've learned that exhaustion isn't a badge of honor. It's in those who choose clean food, not because it's trendy, but because they view their body as a sacred tool, not a trash bin for processed chemicals. When you honor your body, it honors you back. And one of the ways it honors you is by aging gracefully. It holds on to strength longer. It carries you with dignity. It reflects clarity in your eyes, sharpness in your speech, and confidence in your walk. You don't just look young, you carry a presence that speaks of balance. But it's not just about food and fitness. Honoring the body is also about what you don't expose yourself to. What are you watching? What are you listening to? What kind of environments are you repeatedly placing yourself in? Because just like unhealthy food harms the body, toxic inputs, vulgarity, negativity, aimlessness, they drain the soul. And when your soul is drained, it shows in your body. The heaviness, the fatigue, the dullness, it all connects. Now let's take it deeper. Some people are blessed with youthfulness simply because of their intentional routines, waking up early, having structure, avoiding extremes, and turning to prayer. These acts don't just feed the soul, they regulate your life. And regulation brings peace. Peace brings stability, and stability shows itself on your face. You see, aging isn't just about time passing. It's about how time has passed. What habits did you form? What rhythms did you maintain? What did you expose yourself to day after day? And so, when someone who looks youthful is asked, "What's your secret?" they often shrug and say, "I just live normally." But their normal is full of silent disciplines. They don't binge, they don't abuse, they don't overdo, they rest, they hydrate, they pause, they pray, they reflect. They don't punish their body, they don't glorify burnout. And what's truly beautiful is they do all of this without seeking attention for it. They just do it out of a quiet sense of responsibility. They recognize this body doesn't belong to me, it's a trust, and one day I'll return it. And so the reward for treating it with respect is not just in the hereafter. It shows up here, in this world, in the form of graceful aging, sharpness of mind, and the beautiful, youthful aura that others can't quite describe, but always notice. So if you're someone who's taken care of your body, not for the camera, not for compliments, but for the sake of being trustworthy with what you were given, then perhaps the way you look today is not a coincidence. It is the natural result of sacred self-care. That kind of care doesn't shout, it doesn't show off. It just manifests quietly, beautifully, and in a way that turns heads without trying. That is the beauty of honoring your body and your trust. So yes, when you choose to take care of your body as a trust, you're not just preserving your appearance, you're fulfilling a sacred duty. Because this body doesn't belong to you. It never did. One day it will return to the dust it came from. But while you're in it, you are responsible. Responsible for what you do with it, how you treat it, what you expose it to, and how much rest or abuse you subject it to. Some people spend years chasing outer beauty with no regard for inner order. They try to reverse aging with treatments, filters, surgeries, but inside they're exhausted, spiritually disoriented, running on adrenaline and caffeine, chasing validation, performing perfection, and the body eventually gives up. It says, "I can't carry this anymore." But those who honor their body from the inside out, they don't need to fight aging. They age with dignity. They don't hide behind artificial youth. They carry real strength, real clarity, real presence. And here's the beauty of it. This doesn't require perfection. You don't need to eat flawlessly. You don't need to be at the gym 6 days a week. You don't need to obsess over your reflection. That's not the goal. The goal is balance, discipline, intentionality, gratitude. It's about saying, I've been given this heart, this spine, these eyes, these legs. I must protect them. I must preserve them, not for fashion, not for attention, but because they are a gift. And I don't want to be ungrateful for the gift. That mindset, that humility, that daily awareness that your body is not yours, it changes everything. It makes you more gentle with yourself, more thoughtful about your habits, more conscious of your limits, and in return your body responds. It supports you, it carries you with steadiness, it holds you up with grace. It doesn't break down as easily. It protects you the way you protected it. And the reward of that, people around you may not always understand it. They might compliment your appearance, your posture, your energy, but they won't know the full story. They won't see the choices you made silently, the nights you slept early, the meals you skipped because they weren't good for you, the walks you took instead of staying glued to a screen, the moments you said no to harmful indulgence, the prayers you made for health, the water you drank instead of a quick fix. All of it adds up. It adds up in your face, in your skin, in your tone, in the way you show up in the world. And more importantly, it adds up in your scale of deeds. Because taking care of your body, when done with the intention of honoring the trust, becomes worship, it becomes ibadah. Even something as simple as sleeping early with the niyyah to wake up fresh for Fajr becomes part of your reward. So if today you are someone who looks younger than your age, and you know that part of that is because you lived with discipline, even imperfectly, know that you've already been rewarded in this life. And trust, even greater rewards are waiting in the next. Because you didn't chase vanity, you lived with value, and that makes all the difference. And let me tell you something, value outlasts vanity. Vanity fades. It needs constant attention, constant applause. It rises and falls with trends. It demands visibility. It screams for approval. But value? It's quiet, stable, rooted in something deeper. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. It just works. It carries you forward, and eventually it speaks for you. When you honor your body not to impress, but to fulfill a trust, you're not just maintaining your appearance, you're building character. You're aligning your physical habits with your spiritual intentions. That kind of alignment radiates in ways no filter ever can. And even if no one ever compliments you for it, even if you never get acknowledged for the small, quiet disciplines, the one who gave you this body knows. He sees it all. He sees when you push the plate away, not out of image consciousness, but because you don't want to fall into gluttony. He sees when you choose to walk instead of scroll, not for your waistline, but to clear your head and reconnect. He sees when you hydrate, when you stretch, when you rest, not to meet beauty standards, but because you understand you're preserving His gift. And that's what turns these small physical acts into acts of worship. That's what brings barakah into your body, into your life, into your presence, and yes, into the way you age. Because barakah doesn't just affect your time or wealth. Barakah shows up in your health, in your sleep, in the way your body sustains you even when you haven't done everything right, in the way you recover faster, in the way people say, there's something different about you, I don't know what it is. That something is divine favor. That something is the silent reward of a person who respected what they were given. And here's the truth, most people only start caring about their body after it breaks down, after the warning signs, after the diagnosis, after the fatigue becomes unbearable. That's when the regret shows up. I should have rested more, I should have eaten better, I should have listened to my body when it whispered before it screamed. But if you've been blessed to be among those who honored it early, who listened before the damage, who chose balance before the burnout, then understand this. Your youthfulness isn't luck, it's preservation by principle. And that's rare, because today everyone wants to look young, but very few want to live with the kind of self-respect and self-control that actually keeps them young. So the next time someone compliments your glow, your energy, your presence, don't just say thank you, say Alhamdulillah. Because the beauty they're seeing is just the visible part. The real reward is deeper. It's in your peace. It's in your steadiness. It's in knowing that you're treating the gift the way the giver intended. And that kind of care doesn't age. Some people walk through life carrying a calmness you can't quite explain. They might not speak much. They're not loud or flashy. They don't advertise themselves, but there's a glow to them, a quiet strength, a peaceful dignity that turns heads without trying. You look at them and think there's something about them. They just look peaceful, rested, younger than their age. What you're witnessing, even if you don't realize it, is the protection that comes through prayer and patience. You see, prayer isn't just a ritual. It's not just movement. It's not just a checkbox on a spiritual to-do list. Prayer, when done consistently, sincerely recalibrates your entire system. 5 times a day, you disconnect from the world and reconnect with your Creator. 5 times a day, you step out of stress and step into stillness. 5 times a day, you bow and say, I'm not in control and I don't have to be. That spiritual reset has physical consequences. It soothes the nervous system. It eases anxiety. It regulates your emotions. It grounds your soul. It trains your breathing. It improves circulation. It creates a rhythm in your day, and that rhythm brings balance. And balanced people age differently. They don't carry as much tension in their face. They don't constantly chase the next thing. Their body isn't in a perpetual state of fight or flight. They have a source of calm that the world can't shake. And what about patience? Patience is the soul's endurance. It's the strength you build in silence, the tears you hold back, the arguments you walk away from, the injustices you entrust to God instead of retaliating, the chaos you survive without letting it change who you are. Patience isn't passive, it's powerful, and it leaves its mark not just in your character but in your body. You can spot a patient person. They don't react emotionally to everything. They're not easily provoked. They've learned to wait, to surrender, to breathe. And over the years, that emotional self-regulation saves them from a lot of unnecessary stress. Because the truth is, stress is a silent aging agent. It damages your organs. It disrupts your sleep. It accelerates inflammation. It shows in your skin. It takes away your light. People who are constantly worried, constantly angry, constantly rushing, they start to look tired, worn out, older than they are. But people who pray, people who practice patience, they're protected from the inside out. Not because they've never faced hardship, but because they've learned how to carry it. They know when to fight and when to surrender. They know how to lift their hands and say, I can't do this alone. Help me. And that simple act of submission, of handing your burdens over to the one who created you, that's what gives you the kind of peace that no vacation, no therapy, no skincare routine can offer. And here's something people don't realize. Consistent prayer is one of the best forms of emotional detox. You get to offload your grief, your shame, your guilt, your worries. You get to cry in private, to speak without judgment, to let it all out. And when you rise from that prayer, you feel lighter, not just spiritually, but physically. Your shoulders loosen, your back straightens, your chest opens up. That kind of regular emotional cleansing, it adds years to your life and removes years from your face. So if you're someone who prays, even imperfectly, if you've tried to be patient, even when it hurt, if you've held back your anger and trusted the process, if you've turned to your Creator instead of turning bitter, then don't be surprised if you've been spiritually preserved. Because you've been watering your soul, you've been healing from within, you've been relying on the ultimate source of peace, and that peace has become your protection. And now you wear that protection in your calmness, in your grace, in your quiet confidence, in your youthfulness. People may say you're glowing, but what they don't realize is that your glow comes from sujood, from tears shed in silence, from restraint practiced when anger was boiling, from patience that almost broke you but didn't. You've been protected and preserved, not just by genetics or lifestyle, but by divine mercy. And maybe you didn't even notice. Because the truth is, spiritual protection is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't draw attention. It works in the background, quietly shielding you from things that could have destroyed your health, your peace, your clarity. You may never realize the sickness you were spared from, the mental breakdown you narrowly avoided, the toxic path that never pulled you in, the damage your soul would have endured had you not turned to prayer or clung to patience. You didn't escape those things because you were lucky. You escaped them because somewhere along the way, even in your weakest moment, you chose to trust. You whispered a prayer instead of losing your mind. You stayed silent when you could have exploded. You took a deep breath and said, "It's in God's hands," when everything inside you wanted to scream. And now, that choice lives in you. It has shaped your energy. It has softened your face. It has added years to your peace and taken years off your appearance, because the people who age the slowest are often the people who surrender the fastest. They don't hold on to pain longer than they need to. They don't replay the betrayal. They don't dwell in bitterness. They take the hurt and they place it where it belongs, in the hands of the one who sees all, knows all, and heals all. That's what prayer does. It doesn't always change your situation, but it changes you inside the situation. And that shift, that internal surrender, that is what keeps people youthful, even when life has been unkind. It's not the absence of pain, it's the presence of divine connection through the pain. And patience, it's a quiet strength, a muscle you build with every delay, every unanswered question, every heartbreak you didn't allow to harden you. People think patience is weakness, but it's one of the highest forms of strength. Because in a world where everyone is reacting, exploding in anger, collapsing under pressure, lashing out in frustration, the patient person remains rooted, still, grounded, trusting. And just like a tree planted in firm soil, they weather the storm and come out stronger, more vibrant, more alive. So when someone looks at you and says you've hardly aged, they might assume it's skincare or clean eating. But deep down, you know, it's the result of years of surrender, years of whispered prayers, years of holding your tongue, years of saying, "I leave it to Him." That kind of inner work rewires you. It slows down the damage. It keeps your heart open. And an open heart is a youthful heart. So, if you've been carrying patience like a shield, if you've been returning to prayer like a lifeline, know this: you are not just aging gracefully, you are being carried, preserved, protected. And no one may ever understand the full extent of your inner strength, but it's written on your face. It's evident in your presence. And most importantly, it's recorded with the one who sees every silent sacrifice, because none of it has gone unnoticed. Every time you sat in prayer, while your heart was heavy, but your lips still whispered gratitude. Every time you stayed silent while your ego screamed to be heard. Every time you smiled through pain, trusted through confusion, waited through difficulty. It was seen, it was heard, it was written. And while the world rewards external success, the one who created you rewards what no one else sees. That's why some people walk through life with a light on their face and no one can explain it. They may not be rich, they may not be famous, they may not live an easy life, but they carry a presence, the kind that can't be bought or faked. The kind of light that comes from being purified through hardship but remaining soft. And do you know what that light is? It's sabr, it's sujood, it's submission. It's the glow of someone who chose not to fight the storm, but to seek shelter in the one who controls it. It's the radiance of someone who didn't just survive tests, they grew through them. And that kind of growth reflects not in wrinkles or scars, but in serenity, in humility, in spiritual youthfulness. You see, the people who pray consistently, not perfectly, but sincerely, they create a connection that sustains them from within. They're not chasing peace, they're already rooted in it.